How exciting is that? Didn't know about that, eh? No, even most guitarists don't know about it. There's a lot of great new music that comes from Mexico, including music for, electric guitar. Not only that, there's some fascinating music that comes from a different kind of guitar that was born in Mexico. It's true. About 100 years ago, Julian Carrillo came up with a quarter-tone guitar and wrote some of the first music for it of the 20th century. Put that all together, and you got an extraordinary kind of music that is featured by my special guest today. His name is Angel Blanco, or Angel Blanco, or Angel Coacoatzel, but we'll talk about that. Angel, welcome to KPFK.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much.
Such a pleasure to have you here. So you are obviously from Mexico, even though now you live in Canada. One of these days you'll get to the country in the middle, right?
Right.
So how did you get started in modern Mexican music?
Well, when I was studying music in Mexico, I was influenced big time also Leo Brouwer.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So by practicing his music and going to seminars and festivals and stuff like that, I kind of like developed a certain affinity towards contemporary classical music. And so, then I started digging more about the electroacoustic music.
Well, we should talk a little bit about Leo Brouwer just for a moment, because some folks don't know that he's one of the greatest guitar composers of the 20th century. Still alive and kicking, still writing music. He's Cuban. And, what a man who basically taught himself how to compose, too, and has written film scores, et cetera, and a great guitarist. So that set you on the path, did it?
Yes. I was a huge, big fan of Leo Brouwer.
So when did you discover the music of Julian Carrillo, the quarter-tone guitar composer?
Yeah, that's super interesting. As a music student, of course, in Mexico back in the 1990s, like a lot of professors from school, they used to tell us about this legendary composer who wrote the super weird microtonal music, and the name of the 13th sound, Sonido 13. It was like, whoa, like. And there was not much information about him, just the symphony and perhaps the prelude to Christopher Columbus, and that was it. Not much more. So then when I was studying at Germany, by the way, with Stockhausen, we were a group of people taking that class with Stockhausen. There was this Mexican guy who told me, you know what, you should really dig into Julian Carrillo, and the 13th sound, because it's there, the archives are there, and not that. So then I contact the family, the Carrillo family, and then they opened the door for me, and they said, well, go ahead, study, practice, learn how to read and write the notation, because Carrillo used numbers,
Numbers only, not note heads. People that see that stuff go crazy because where's the music? It's tablature, right?
Yeah. It looks like that exactly. So yeah, it was really really interesting because kind of like learn a new system, and then I developed like a passion for his music and his system per se. And so yeah, that was like how he got into the Carrillo world. Let's put it that way. And thanks to that, I it opened the doors for me worldwide, and so I met really really talented and interesting people such as you, sir,
Mm-hmm.
and Johnny Reinhardt and other people.
So we're talking to Angel Blanco, whose guitar music of Julian Carrillo Volume 1 was recorded a while ago, and also during his, we'll call them the Angelos Quetzalcoatl years, another album that's being released tomorrow. So we're celebrating that, of course, and we'll keep a little energy back for September 16th for Independence Day too. But so you've got a fascinating take. So quarter tone, and of course, it wasn't just Julian Carrillo that got involved with that instrument. You got involved with this music.
Exactly. Other composers as well.
So I'm wondering, can you hear this guitar when I turn it up?
No, I cannot hear them. Sorry.
Oh dear. Well, I'm playing ABBA.
Oh, right. There you go. So yeah, his friend Alois Abba, of course. Yes.
So most folks have never heard of quarter tone guitar music because it's got, well, to quote the Amadeus movie, too many notes. Too many frets. There are literally 24 frets per octave. Imagine, guitarists, if you put a fret smack dab right in between every one of your current existing frets. Yeah, good luck. How do you even navigate around that? Oh, I get it. Practice. Am I right?
Exactly. Now that you mentioned ABBA, there's this very famous European guitarist, Wim Hugebert, who recorded the first ABBA suite. And he told me exactly that, like, oh man, like the nightmare is to kind of like relearn the technique so you can hit those notes. And because, as a guitarist yourself, as a microtonal guitarist yourself, you also know that if you are playing the Harry Parch guitar, classical, the technique of the left hand, if you're right-handed, of course, has to change. You cannot do the same, right?
Or you play the wrong note, and that's not right.
Exactly, and the pressure, the pressure that you use in your fingers also changes a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah. All of that is really really difficult, and but it's also interesting. A lot of people do not do it because it's so like it's big time, time consuming. But at the same time, it's like, well, do you want to do the same over and over and over, or you want to explore? Gotta ask yourself that question.
That is the question, and that's true about all contemporary music too. So I'm sorry, you're zooming from Montreal, I believe it is.
Close by Rivière du Loup. That's the name of the city. Close by, yeah.
And it's unfortunate you can't hear the music we're playing, so I'm going to ask you to just hold on for a second, and we're going to listen to some of this music from your album, the music of ABBA, quarter tone music, performed by my special guest today, Angel Blanco. Music of the Czech composer Alois Abba for quarter tone guitar. performed by my special guest. And now you have two albums that are being released tomorrow. One is the guitar music of Julian Carrillo, and I imagine that those other pieces, the piece we were just listening to a moment ago, is from the other album by some guy named Angelos. You pronounce it.
Yeah, Quetzalcoatl.
Which anybody knows, of course, is a famous name in Mexico. So who was that person?
All right. Well, Quetzalcoatl, are you talking about the Aztec deity?
No, I'm talking about who is Angelos. Why did you change your name? I mean, or were you formerly known
Right.
as Prince, right?
Of course, I just by you. Yeah. So I decided, that I wanted to represent the best of Mexico by being like a messenger of Quetzalcoatl. Quetzalcoatl is like the figure, par excellence from Mexico. So I was very young, and just starting to develop my career and stuff like that. So I was really wild, and as a lover of history, I was like, okay, I wanna become like the guitarist, for Mexico. So that was in my 20s, of course, and so I really dig into that, for a couple of years, and I use that name, So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay. So on that album, you explore quite a lot of interesting new music for guitar. There are guitar concertos that people love. Of course, the guitar concerto of the 20th century is Joaquin Rodrigo's, the Concerto de Aranjuez. But there was another concerto that was written before that by the guitarist who was in Julian Carrillo's band, a guy named Rafael Adame. Here's the cadenza from that concerto. Are there any recordings of the full concerto available now? I don't think I've ever heard one.
There's one by like the complete recording by the guitarist who re-premiered, or rediscovered the score back in the 90s. His name is Manuel Rubio, Ruio, like blonde, Rubio.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he recorded the concerto of that one. So you can find it in the streaming platforms.
Oh, great. That's good to know. Well, speaking of concertos, and by the way, which of these albums do we find this piece? Is it the Quetzalcoatl album?
Yes,
okay.
in the Quetzalcoatl album, yes.
I had a feeling that was the case. So now let's talk about another concerto, which is, again, kind of rare, but wow. The Concertino for Electric Guitar and Orchestra by Blas Galindo. Who was he, and when was this piece written?
Okay, yeah. Blas Galindo, he was one of the top nationalist composers back in the 1940s, 1950s in Mexico. He was a student of Carlos Chavez, the enormous figure of Carlos Chavez, and the enormous figure of Aaron Copland. You know how Carlos Chavez and Aaron Copland, they together developed nationalism in Mexico. It's
That's
interesting
right, yeah.
how Aaron Copland was around, So then Blas Galindo, back in the 1960s, he decided to start his transition from nationalism to avant-garde, or modern style.
Mm-hmm.
And so he wrote a couple of pieces for electronic music and this and this and that. And then his son, he was really influenced by the hippie movement of Woodstock and Jimi Hendrix and all of that. So there was a huge rock festival in Mexico 2 years after Woodstock. It's called the Avándaro Festival. And so because of that influence of how the rock music was becoming so popular, in the country, Blas Galindo decided to, because electric guitar is like the instrument par excellence for rock music.
Course, yeah.
So so he wrote this piece back in 1973. Legend has it, I cannot confirm this, okay? So I'm going to put it as questionable, but legend has it that he tried to get Carlos Santana to perform it.
Oh.
It will be very good, interesting question, to ask Carlos Santana, but because Carlos Santana is from the same town from Rafael Adame, by the way. They are both from close to Guadalajara, Jalisco state, and so is Blas Galindo, close. He's from Jalisco, so he unsuccessfully premiered the concerto with a classical guitarist in 1977.
Mm-hmm.
And I say unsuccessful because the guitarist, who by the way, who was a great classical guitarist, but he didn't play the electric guitar.
Did he do the premiere on classical guitar or on electric?
Kind of like, no, he kind of like used like a microphone for the classical and some effects or something like that. So it didn't work. It didn't work at all. It was booed, like boo, and nobody enjoyed it. And so then Galindo put the rest, the piece for until 1987, 1988, when another guitarist, Carlos Maceiras, he came and said, well, you know what, maestro, we should do it again, and we're gonna do it right this time. And so they re-premiered, the piece in the 80s. And Blas Galindo was very happy because he said, now it sounds like Jimi Hendrix.
Very good. Well, for the next 7 minutes, we're going to listen to your recording of the opening movement. My special guest is Angelo Blanco, and he's got a new album coming out tomorrow. Two of them, as a matter of fact, and one of the tunes on it is this, the opening movement from Blas Galindo's Guitar Concerto. A blast from the past, to say the least. The composition is from 1973. My special guest, Angel Blanco, has released his recording of at least the first movement of this concerto by Blas Galindo. When did you record this, Angel?
That was in 2012.
Ah, so it's relatively recent. And are those vintage pedals too? There's some really funky, wonderful sounds in there.
Thank you. Yeah. Unfortunately, we didn't have that much time to really record it well as you know, as it was required. But yes, we got some really old amps and you know, all that stuff.
Excellent. Once again, we're listening to the music of Angel Blanco or Angel Blanco, depending on where you're brought up. And this is from two new albums that are being released tomorrow. Hey, this is the land of streaming. Are these albums being printed as CDs or LPs, or is this just going to be streaming only?
Yeah, they will have a physical release as well in December, before I hit the road. Which, by the way, I'll be in LA in December. Visiting you.
Yes, I know. We're going to have you live here when we get you over here. That'll be a lot of fun, to say the least.
Yes, and I'll give you a physical copy right there.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. Well, that's one piece of music that you're definitely involved in. But you're also, on this new album, there's some fascinating music by Raul Corral. It's called Ostinato. More music on electric guitar. Now, Angel, I've seen photographs of you performing where you have not one, but two guitars in your lap. Is this one of the pieces that you do with two guitars?
Yes, that's a piece from a composer from Chihuahua. His name is Raul Corral. And so he wrote that for two guitars at the same time, kind of like the Stanley Jordan style.
So if you listen closely, folks, he's not plucking those strings, he's tapping them. So why two different guitars? Why couldn't you just do it on one? Is one different than the other?
Some of the notes you cannot hit them properly if you're just using one. It will be more. It will be harder. Let's put it that way. It will be harder to do it with just one guitar.
Yeah.
So I prefer go the piano because I play piano a little bit, so I'm kind of like more used to it.
Well, the dramatic effect of seeing you on stage with two guitars is worth the price of admission right there. Come on, have you ever dropped one? Or do you have two guitar straps on?
Yeah. I use one on the bass nowadays.
Oh, so it's standing in front of you. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Angel Blanco is my special guest today. We're going to go out with a little bit of music that you wrote for this album. It's called Immortality.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like classical guitar technique on an electric guitar.
Yes.
Are you going to play that for us live when you come in December?
By all means, sir.
Oh, there you go. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you today. I know you've got to get back to work here. You're in Canada. And thank you, Zoom, for bringing most of your words. You were cutting out just a little bit, but hey, that's Zoom land, isn't it, right?
Right.
Well, best of luck, and again, look at all the normal streaming places for these new albums. Is that right?
Yes, yes, all streaming platforms, yeah.
And the first one is called The Guitar Music of Julian Carrillo, Volume 1, and the Angelos Coatzacoatl Years. Should be a blast. Modern Mexican music just in time for Mexican Independence Day. Okay, Maestro, we'll see you in L.A. in December.
Yes, thank you very much, Maestro Schneider. It's a pleasure.
It's the Global Village, music from around the world and around the block. More music from around the block as, well, it's a bit of both, actually, because Joanna Wallfish has a new album out. She's from England, but she lives in L.A. now, and we'll hear more from her new album. It's called All in Time. That's coming up when we come back on your radio station, KPFK.